Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Welcome to Arts and Lifestyles Wednesday on Danny Clinkscale's Reasonably Irreverent podcast. And, of course, Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday is sponsored by the Exit Room of Lee Summit. Head there for your escape games and all kinds of great fun there in downtown Lee Summit. Active and vibrant places downtown Lee Summit, and the Exit Room of Lee Summit is a big part of that. So they're a fine sponsor, great person, great people to deal with, and Chris Arbuckle and his gang over there do a great job, and we're glad they sponsor this particular effort. And every other week, that effort features Tim Finn from In Kansas City Magazine and 90.9 The Bridge, longtime music critic here in Kansas City, long time at the Kansas City Star, and a tangled musical web we always weave, and it's the same way this time around, as we'll bounce all around from Bob Dylan to Chris Stapleton to Nelly, Celine, Dion, all kinds of different things and topics, and our side journeys are some of the things that make it a little bit of extra fun. It's always big-time fun for me. Hope you enjoy it, and our bi-weekly regular visit, and it's not very regular, it's just fun, with Tim Finn comes up next right here. Looking for a truly unique escape from your normal entertainment or corporate team-building regimen? Stay tuned for an exclusive offer only for Reasonably Irreverent listeners. I'm excited to tell you about an extraordinary destination, the Exit Room, located in the heart of beautiful downtown Lee Summit. The Exit Room is a distinctive entertainment option that offers a cool alternative to the normal couples night out, family get-togethers, and corporate team-building events. The Exit Room is a one-of-a-kind boutique escape room catering to special occasions and corporate team-building events, and is unmatched in the Kansas City metro. With 5 individually designed and varied escape room adventures, your party or employees can unplug from their electronic world, interact with one another, match wits, and ultimately escape the humdrum of the ordinary. The Exit Room adventures cross decades and centuries and create fascinating fun. I know the owners well. They are local folks, their staff is warm and friendly, their lobby is inviting and beautiful, and their adventures are award-winning. Check online. There are over 1,000 reviews, and note that they are a rare 5-star ranked business. Visit their website and Facebook page, and any of my listeners who books online at theexitroomkc.com using the promo code Clinkscale19 gets 10% off any ticket purchase. The Exit Room in Lee Summit. Unplug, interact, and escape.
There's no need to get a case of the Mondays every week, not during football season anyway. Hey, this is Matt Llewellyn from the 23rd Street Brewery, and we are the place for Monday Night Football. Food and drink specials every week, and all new televisions always at 23rd Street Brewery. The hardest thing about Mondays now will be getting through the workday, although waking up on Tuesdays might be a little bit tough. But remember, watch all the Chiefs games, NFL games, every game at the 23rd Street Brewery.
I was duped, and I recommend you be next. For better or worse, the ultra-realistic impression of me sits now in my wife's office to spook her on a daily basis. So what is Doob? D-O-O-B. It's the keepsake of a lifetime, a 3D-generated, incredibly lifelike figurine. 66 cameras take an image at exactly the same moment in any pose, and state-of-the-art 3D technology transforms that into exact replicas of you, anyone you know or love, a pet, whomever is close to your heart. Create lifetime memories with a Doob. Visit their Facebook page at Doob 3D Kansas City, or better yet, see their incredible creations. Visit their location down on the plaza in the heart of it at 231 West 47th Street in KC Mo. Doob, be next. Are you thinking of starting a new business? Does your current business feel stuck? Or are you just trying to grow what you already have? Running a business is a lot of work, and it takes the right team to make it all happen. If you're looking to grow your business, call my friends Ben and Greg over at Fuego Consulting. They put together a company that can help you reach your business goals. Whether you're looking to get online, build a social media strategy, or rebrand your business, they can help. Call Fuego at 816-663-9695 or visit them online at fuegoconsulting.com. Fuego Consulting. Let's grow your business together. Tim, it's an interesting time of the year as we transition out of the big-time summer concert season into the fall. I was thinking about that the other day when I heard an ad on the radio for a show the other day at Crossroads, and I was driving around that day, and I'm like, oh, that's not going to be fun. It was about 50 degrees.
Right, there was a show. Michael Franti was there
on
Monday.
Right, that was the one. And
I think they have one more show left there.
Right.
In November.
And it made me think of it because today was a pre-sale for a show way out. The Mavericks will do 3 shows at Knuckleheads in May. I think it's May 7th, 8th, and 9th, or right around there. And that is not guaranteed to be warm.
No.
It's likely to be,
Right.
but so you're kind of rolling the dice a little bit there.
Well, I know they announced the Vampire Weekend show at Starlight in September for the show in September 2020. So
Wow.
That's becoming less rare, where a show is announced a year in advance, and they'll take your money gladly.
Oh, yeah.
So,
When I bought the tickets for the Mark Knopfler concert, which was August 28th, I bought those in November
right.
of the previous year.
Well, when I was at the Star, I did a story just on that, like what happens to that money, and
It's interesting.
it's
Do tell.
Well, yeah, it's sat upon by venues and promoters, and they definitely nobody was explicitly forthcoming about it, but talking to band managers and other people are like, oh yeah, I mean, if they're not putting it somewhere, they're stupid. Yeah, your money's just sitting there waiting, and but that's the price you pay to secure a ticket that
Right.
far out. But man, what a gamble.
Right.
I hope you're alive or
exactly.
still living here or employed.
I just think, right. I think about how life could be completely different, when you're talking about months and months away. The Mavericks are playing 3 shows. They usually play 2. They're a sensational live band. We've talked about them before, and they have a very dedicated following, and proven by the fact they actually had a ticket package for all 3 shows for a premium price, and I know there are people who do that.
Absolutely. Yeah, they this must be one of their favorite stops.
I think
because
so.
It's always sold out, and they come every year, and now it's becoming more than just once a year, I think.
Yeah, sometimes. I think they've done 2 in a year before, because they did a summer one or spring-summer one and a New Year's one a couple of years ago. Last year, I think they just did the one. But, I think it is. The guitarist Eddie Perez, I think he has a connection with Knuckleheads, or his father did, or something like that. So I think there's more than... And I think when they first came back and had not gotten, re-energized and put out a couple of albums that were extremely well received, they still had a place where they were extremely popular. It made me think of bands that have that kind of cult following, where even if they sort of go away, they can still go out and have a dedicated crowd. And I guess sometimes jam bands will be in that category.
Absolutely.
What is kind of a cult thing that maybe pops into your head?
I can't really call them a cult band.
No, they're more than that. But
it's hard to say. Bands that always draw a big crowd, whether or not they put out a record. Yeah, a lot of them are just classic rock bands.
Right.
The Rainmakers are like that. They'll do 2 shows and 2 nights here and go on the road and do that. And they haven't put out anything new in a year. They just got back from Norway for their last time, where they had been going for a decade, because that was their biggest audience, essentially. And they were selling as well there as they did in America back in the 80s. And so they kept going over to Scandinavia. But nobody leaps to mind right offhand, because it's kind of hard to do what they've done, the Mavericks, because it's so easy to become forgotten or irrelevant if you don't keep yourself in people's minds.
Right, and they have no particular genre.
They're not on radio.
They became famous as a country band, but they certainly couldn't get their records played on country radio now. So always a great show. If you're interested, never seen them, I mean, it's just a big party. And
the other thing that makes what they're doing kind of interesting is that you can play out too much. You can come back too many times. And I've seen it happen with everyone from like Rascal Flatts and Toby Keith, like they're there for the 3rd time in almost less than 4 years. That 3rd show is like, the upper deck's not nearly as full, because people had seen them twice already, and they don't want to drop another and $80 on tickets to see what they've already seen.
Right, it is expensive. It certainly is a fine balance. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, they'd never done 3 shows. I'll be interested to see how it goes. But last time, I think they sold out the 2 shows so fast that maybe they figured that that was the case. Recently, Bob Dylan came to town, and it wasn't a must go to for the journalistic crowd, apparently.
Well, the Star didn't cover it. In Kansas City, which I write for, didn't cover it, and I didn't see any coverage elsewhere. So that was a little mystifying. I did read a lot about it, and sporadically. I read about it sporadically on Facebook, and the responses were kind of all along the spectrum. No one said it was awful. No one said any unkind things about it. But there were some words like he seemed a little slow, or, there were some euphemisms for how he sang.
But I don't know what you expect. He wasn't a good singer in his heyday.
But a couple of people who had seen it before said it was among their top 5 or 6 shows. So it was probably, I think I can imagine what kind of show it was, because probably like the last time I saw him, which was at Starlight, which was, he didn't destroy his songs, which I've seen him do before. Just everyone sounds alike, and you have to catch a snatch of lyrics to figure out which song it is, and even that's not always easy because of his enunciation or lack of it, and his cadence is off, and so it becomes like trying to find something in the dark. So I'm certain it wasn't like one of those shows, but sort of a by the book, above average Dylan show.
You wrote a piece about it, and what was your inspiration maybe for doing that?
Well, I wrote it for the Bridges website. I'm on there every Thursday, and they have a website, and they wanted a preview or something to preview the show before he came to town. So this was posted like Thursday before, or Wednesday or Thursday before the show. I just went back into the Star archives. I have access to those, and I looked up reviews of the shows I had not seen in Kansas City. He's done 21 shows in 42 years, including Sundays, and got little bits and pieces of reviews from the shows I hadn't seen, and then the shows I have seen I could just remember. It was just interesting that, the headline on the piece was "Check Your Expectations at the Door," and we call it the ever-changing tour because he can be all over the place. Even going back to his first show here was at Kemper Arena in 1978, and the headline on the review was "Good Second Set Saves Dylan," and one of the lines from the review was, "It was both an unforgettable and infuriating show." So
I would say that's I've seen Bob Dylan 3 times, and once it was really good, once it was pretty good, and once it was god awful. Mm-hmm. And I would say that that's kind of what you can get.
Right. So I went through every show, and it was just a lot like that. Like a headline in 1989: "Dylan still lives up to his legend," and a line from the review was, "His vocal phrasing has become even more eccentric," which is a kind way of saying I don't know what he's saying.
Right. For anybody who is, the show just passed, but for anybody who has never seen a Dylan show and then they finally say, I better see him before he's never going to perform again. There are many songs, like you say, the song is going along and it's maybe even appealing, maybe even good, but you don't know what it is. And then you're like, oh, it's All Along the Watchtower, because the arrangement is completely different than what the record or what you've heard.
Well, here's just a few of the headlines from other shows. In 1991, "Aloof Dylan confuses audience." 1992, "Dylan shows best side at Spirit Fest." He did a show in Lawrence in 94. "He's still packing a punch. Bob Dylan thrills Lawrence crowd." So, and it sort of continues that way.
I think he did a show one time, I heard, where his back was to the audience much of the show.
I have never seen him do that. I wouldn't be too surprised, but one of the worst shows I've ever seen him perform was at the Midland. Merle Haggard opened. It was great. And Dylan had changed his band pretty profoundly. My favorite version of his band had Larry Campbell and Charlie Sexton. Charlie Sexton's back with the band after a pretty long hiatus. So Dylan had new band members. He was on the way left of the stage, looking across the stage, not at the crowd. The stage was darkly lit. The band was scattered, so you got no sense of community among the band.
It's like going to see the Eagles or something.
Yeah, it was just very cold mood coming off the stage, and his vocals, everything were just awful. Everything sounded the same meter, same tempo, and he was He sounded like Red Fox the whole night.
And you talked about a Community America show where people ended up leaving.
Right. Oh, you could see it happening. Like, and the person I was with had not seen him, and she just looked at me like, "Can we go?" Like, gotta stay till the end. But Willie Nelson had performed that night and performed a song with Dylan, which was fine. And Willie can be a little unpredictable. He's never bad like Dylan is bad. Willie gets a little rushed, and it's almost like he's
ready to go.
Right. Wants to get back on that bus. And but you can always understand Willie, and you always know what song he's singing. There's never any doubt about that. And he plays the guitar really well. So in contrast to him, Dylan was just terrible.
I did a Kansas City profile last Friday. Was the subject was Lindsay Shannon, who and obviously runs BB's Alongside Barbecue. I had lunch there. It was very good. I like Cajun food. I even had to admit to him, I don't really like barbecue that much, buddy. But I tasted their burn ends just to say for journalistic purposes, and they were quite good. He has an interesting niche in the blues scene. This is an interesting blues community. It's not certainly famous as it is for its jazz, but as he pointed out, jazz and blues can be very much interrelated.
Sure.
And he cited Jay McShann. So what kind of blues town would you say Kansas City is?
I think it has a pretty solid blues community. Lindsay has sort of picked up, when the Grand Emporium closed,
right?
Frank Hicks over at Knuckleheads really picked that up, and that's what he was doing, not exclusively, but almost for a while. And then Frank expanded and did other things, but that was the place where local blues bands could go. That's where Samantha Fish got started.
Right.
But there are a lot of bands and performers from the blues community here have been around for decades. Mama Ray is one, and that's their home now. I'm pretty sure that's what he brings in touring acts too.
But he said, he said the bigger ones I'll leave to Knuckleheads. He really said that. So if somebody's interested in that and the blues and Lindsay Shannon, everything I do is still up at their website, so you can go and.
But I saw Samantha Fish play there. It's obviously been many years ago, at least 6. But and she packed the place. That's like Katie Gein and the Girls, another local band, who play. Well, they're a different band now, but they play bigger venues. They probably won't go back to BB's anymore, but he gives bands like that a place to launch, younger bands, and then the veteran bands. It's kind of their home place. What
are you looking forward to here as the winter comes? Are there some things we'll talk about this week's shows? But what are some of the big things that are happening?
Wilco's coming next month, and I've had to miss them. There was a band I never missed, and I did miss them once. They played at Crossroads the same night Elton John opened Sprint Center, and so obviously I had to go to that show. And
right.
Friends have said that was one of Wilco's best shows ever that night. Jeff Tweedy was playing off the Elton John being there, and,
right?
And they did fireworks because of the. He's like, oh, look, they're doing fireworks for us. And and then I had to miss another one because I don't remember why, but I was sad. And so I'm going to go this time, definitely. They've got a new record out. I'm going to write a piece for the Bridge websites next month about them. It's going to focus on Uncle Tupelo, which was the band he was in before Wilco. And he and Jay Farrar did Uncle Tupelo, and they were on the verge of being a pretty big independent band. Were signed to a major label's side label, and then put out this really nice record that got really good reviews, and Jay Farrar just quit and said, I'm out. And it was... Anyway, so I'm just going to write about that band and how it sprouted these 2 bands, Sunvolt and Wilco. And Wilco has just taken off and is one of the bigger... they've never done an arena show. They've done plenty of festivals where they draw a lot of people, and maybe they've done an arena show that I don't know about, but never here. They always play at a place like the Uptown or the Midland or Crossroads. So
right.
I'm looking forward to that.
My former co-worker, and sometimes still co-worker, Todd Lebo, is a big Wilco fan, and he sees them every time they come around. And the thing is that if you do like somebody, and they're never usually going to come around that much, and like you say, somebody might quit, they might retire, they might lose their voice. I mean, so you never really know.
No,
if you miss an opportunity, just like the last time the Rolling Stones were here, I decided not to go, and everybody ended up telling me how fantastic it was, and I felt like an idiot. So
I won't rub it in anymore.
Thank you. Tim Finn is our guest, as he is each and every other Wednesday, and of course, as he referenced, he's on 90.9 The Bridge on Thursdays, and you can read his fine commentaries in Kansas City Magazine and on the Bridge website now, and excellent piece about Bob Dylan, very interesting, and nice poster there with Merle Haggard on there. Kind of cool.
One of the awful shows, yeah.
You can see the vagaries of Bob Dylan through the eyes of Tim Finn. We'll talk about some upcoming shows here in the near future coming up next.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
We're here with Joe Spiker, the president of Easton Roofing. And Joe, you worked for other companies in the construction industry. What inspired you to start your own company in Easton Roofing?
Well, Danny, when you are working for somebody else, you oftentimes don't get to see the project through from beginning to end, and you don't get the final control over the customer experience. And I wanted to build a place where people can come and get work done on their house and not have to worry about being treated the wrong way and get a good customer service experience start to finish.
The company slogan is "Where Integrity Matters." Why is that so particularly important to you?
Well, for us, what that means is treating each other with respect at work, treating our clients with respect, and making the right choice, especially when no one's looking. So when you're presented all the time as a contractor with choices that have to be made, are you going to make more money on this if you cut a corner? And we just wanted to make a place and a slogan that said to our people and to whoever is our customer, we're not going to do that. We're going to make the right choice regardless of profit.
Easton Roofing, where integrity matters.
Before you spend your time and money going after an MBA, ask yourself why. Is it so you can tell people you got your MBA? So you can add a line to your CV? So you can call it a CV instead of a resume? Truth is, any MBA will do that. On the other hand, if your goal is to learn how to successfully manage and grow a business with real-world insights from experienced professionals, well, consider getting your MBA from Park University. Our low student-to-teacher ratio gives you personalized attention, and our face-to-face and online classes offered in 8-week terms are designed with working professionals like you in mind. No wonder the Kansas City Business Journal ranks Park University as the top MBA program in the area. Classes begin June 10th at all 4 KC area locations: Parkville, Downtown, Independence, and Lenexa. Visit park.edu to get started.
Sumner One is the company to make your office maximize efficiency. Their family of companies make up one of the largest independent dealers of office technology in the Midwest. They are proud to bring the best service and technology to top companies across the region. Sumner One can help your organization run more smoothly than ever. Sumner One printers, copiers, MFPs, managed print services, document management, infrastructure design, IT services, disaster recovery, and business continuity. Welcome to the one place where everything works. For more information, call Carl Little at 913-752-2256.
For many people, a family law case will be one of the most difficult experiences in their life. The law firm of Kenneth McRae will help you through it. Personal and effective help from Ken in concert with you will develop a unique strategy for your unique case. As Ken always says, divorce can be civil law, not civil war. Licensed in Kansas? Visit McRaeLawOffice.com or call 913-972-4765.
It's Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday, presented by the Exit Room of Lee Summit, and our bi-weekly visit with Tim Finn from In Kansas City Magazine, the 90.9 The Bridge. Tonight at Liberty Hall, there's a very unique band that I think probably personifies courage in music making, called Explosions in the Sky. I mean, if you're going to decide that your genre is going to be sort of experimental, instrumental music, you're pretty much guaranteeing you're not going to be a wild success. You might end up with a long career like they have, 2 decades, but that's a niche, and you've got to be dedicated to a craft that you really feel is important in a style.
Well, I think it's probably become somewhat easier for them to reach potential devotees because of obviously what social media has done. You can get your sound out and your word out. But they started in 1999, so that was before social media. But they come out of Texas, and there is definitely an audience for their music, definitely, and pretty substantial one. I mean, they probably play places like Liberty Hall most of the time, which holds like 900 people. They played here before. I saw them in Austin at South by Southwest. It's interesting stuff. It's not anarchy. It's not chaos. But it is. It's the kind of music you watch as much as you listen to. It's like I said, but they write a lot of soundtracks, so it's kind of soundtrack music. Most notably, the Friday Night Lights, the TV show, they did not write the theme, but they performed it, so it wasn't their song. And then they ended up doing the soundtrack to the movie. So, yeah, it's to me, it's like I don't feel like I participate in the music or that I'm immersed in. You are immersed in it, but it's something I can only tolerate for about 45 minutes.
Right.
Like when I listen to, like, I have every Mark Knopfler soundtrack. I listen to those all the time, but I'm going in and out. You know, it's just it's kind of in the background, and it's sort of affecting me semi-consciously. So,
you know, I should revisit those. Obviously, I'm the biggest Mark Knopfler fan in the world, and he did some iconic ones, Princess Bride, which they're making a remake of for whatever reason, which I don't understand. But we've talked before about covers, and if you're doing a cover, let's make it different, let's make it a tribute, whatever. It's a whole different type of thing.
Some songs should just be left alone.
I agree. And some movies, too, should be just watch the movie. I mean, especially if something is somewhat of a period piece. Or
it's not like it needs special effects or anything, really.
No. But that's very interesting. So that's tonight at Liberty Hall. So if you want to try something a little different, that's the type of thing, I think, where people would be a little evangelical about it and want to say to their friends, you got to go. And then if they brought their friends, it could turn into a disaster.
Right. And, you better check it out first. There's some visuals to the show too. So it is, like I said, it's kind of like you're watching music being played. And a lot of guys are watching their musicians show up and just like watching how they play and looking at their pedals and their gear, and so it can be that kind of experience for a lot of people. It's not like I write. It's not for your just like average music fan. There's no top 40 things going on here.
Right, exactly. Well, top 40 for a little while was Nelly. He'll be at Kansas City Live, and when you do think of somebody who is a very recognizable person, and they're playing at Kansas City Live, which ordinarily is a free show. Are they all
it's
free?
Not free.
It's not free? Okay. Some are free, though, aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah, but fewer.
Fewer than... Yeah. I guess I always had it in my mind that they were.
I think the thing is, what's good is when I would go to those free shows, so it would be people who didn't care about who was playing would wander in and be there for the party, and we're not paying attention to the music, and we're being annoying. So I think this mitigates that.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Because I haven't gone to many of those shows. But
it's not a great venue for that reason. The sound is sketchy. The sight lines can be bad if you're way in back, and
if there's a big crowd. Yeah.
Right, you have to really want to see the person and get there early. I mean, if you get there early and you're up front, it can be fine. Yeah.
And Nelly obviously was huge for a short period of time, and just shows the vagaries of music. But if you're that big, you're probably going to be able to find an audience for quite a long time.
Sure. I was surprised to read that his first 2 records combined sold 17 million copies in the United States. The first one came out when bands were selling 1 million a week. So even by that standard, he was a above average top selling artist, because remember NSYNC and Backstreet Boys were selling 2 million copies a week. But yeah, he had some really big hits. My daughters were, in fourth, sixth grade when he was big, and they loved his music. And I didn't mind playing it for him. He's really catchy and groovy. And I saw him as part of another tour a couple years ago. And it's just a DJ and some of his dancers, so it's not live music. But,
right.
You hear those songs, and we've mentioned this about a lot of artists several times. You go, oh, he did that song. I know that song. I
right.
just never really paid attention who did it. So
right.
It'll be fun.
Yeah. And, hey, fun is what music's all about.
Should be. At least live shows.
Yes, indeed. On the 26th, which obviously is Saturday night, is Chris Stapleton. And I would think that you would have a bit of affection for Chris Stapleton because he's somebody who doesn't really give a rip about trying to conform to what you have some disdain for, which is contemporary country radio.
Right. And obviously he could, because he's written hit songs for Kenny Chesney and Luke Bryan, who are both mega stars in country music. He's more about his roots. He's from Kentucky, and there's a lot of traditional country. There's a lot of country soul. There's some little bits of even southern rock. He writes his music is about the region he came from. That's what I hear. And he's got a really tremendous voice. It's very, very soulful. I can see why it's not on country radio.
But he's playing the Sprint Center, so he probably should be.
He's big, yeah.
Yeah, he is big. And he's written for also pop stars. He wrote songs for Adele.
Right. Yeah, so, and he wrote Josh Stone, who's one of my favorite singers, British soul singer, whom I haven't heard from in a long time. But yeah, he can write any song. He and his wife are songwriters, so he doesn't really need to go out and perform. He's made so much money songwriting. But I'm glad he does, and I'm glad he writes his own music, because I don't associate it with country music. I think he's just a country artist,
right,
who has nothing to do with Nashville.
Why do you think that it is to this day remained such a part of country music that people do many songs written by other people? I mean, it doesn't seem to...
Because most of the entertainers and performers aren't good songwriters, basically. I mean, if you can learn to play guitar and sing really well, and you learn how to polish your acts, because I'll say this about country music, once Nashville decides you're a star, you can't do what a lot of rock bands do and just stand up there and look at your toes and strum a guitar and say nothing between songs. I mean, it's like what Motown did with their artists. You go through like a finishing school, and you better have things to say, and you better act like you are a prime grade A, not just a songwriter or singer, but a performer, or you're not going to last.
And there are a lot of very talented people who go to Nashville, and I think in country music it's probably still a little more requisite that you look the part too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like we just talked about earlier,
especially if you're a woman.
About Wilco. I mean, that's about as unbecoming a bunch as you could say.
I mean, at least
but that doesn't matter in rock music. I mean, sure, it's an advantage,
especially
if you got
rock.
Yeah, if you got a cool front man or whatever. But I mean, you can overcome it, and it doesn't seem like in country you don't necessarily.
You just need to look genuine, like you're not trying to be something you're not,
right?
Because that can look sketchy too. But yeah, no, in country you have to. It isn't even so much like what you wear, because Kenny Chesney wears cut-off T-shirts and jeans and a cowboy hat, but he knows his shtick, and he can play a crowd of 55,000 as good as anybody I've seen. I mean, up there with Bono, and he just knows what to do and how to move and what to say to the crowd. And Chris Stapleton is not like that, though, which is another reason he's an outlier, because he just doesn't really care about charming or entertaining the crowd as much as I got a bunch of really good songs, and I got a great band, and I'm a good singer, so here we go.
Right. And I don't really mind that
at
all.
Fine.
If somebody's good enough, I don't need bells and whistles, but they're nice. And sometimes it seems as if, and there's a great aspect to putting on a tremendous show, no matter who you are, but it seems like the more bells and whistles you're putting up there, the more you're trying to distract a little bit from the fact that maybe the music isn't so great. And that's not always going to be the case. I mean,
or compensate, yeah.
Right. It's like Elton John's great, but he still wanted to put on an extravaganza. Mm-hmm. That was just his personality. So probably more of a simple thing, to say the least, would be Celine Dion coming to the Sprint Center, and that's on Monday night. And she hadn't toured for a long time. She was one of those artists who sort of settled into a residence in Las Vegas and, made $1 bazillion for performing a couple times a week. And sometimes they do more, but it can be a fantastic gig. She's had a lot of turmoil in her life, and she lost her husband and things like that. She's not my cup of tea, but she can be an engaging performer, and in some people's mind has a fantastic voice. In some other people's mind, doesn't necessarily.
Right.
But she's a phenomenon, to say the least.
Oh well, her fans are evangelical. Like I've seen her 3 or 4 times, and they come up to the stage with flowers and they lay them down like she's a goddess,
right?
And they revere her, and she's a diva, not in the Cher sense, but because she's very humble and very kind and appreciative. But her voice is technically fine, but I don't really hear a drop of soul in it. Like,
agreed.
It's impeccably polished, but no cracks, no wrinkles, nothing. So if that's what you like, that's fine. If you just want, perfection, which isn't what I look for in a voice. I want some character, some signs that you've been wounded.
Right. And is this show sold out? I
looked. It's getting there, but it's not. There are more seats left than I thought there would be.
Yeah, that's a little surprising. That's why I asked, because, somebody hasn't toured in a decade. Now, maybe your fans are dedicated enough that they've gone to Las Vegas 5 times and seen her. Mm-hmm. I mean, which probably is likely, actually, because you talked about the dedication. And there was a thought that she would never tour again. Mm-hmm. So, perhaps that happened.
Right. It's either she's been gone so long that a lot of people just they're disinterested now. I don't really believe that's it. And I think she'll do fine. It's not going to look...
Yeah.
But
she's not going to draw 3,000 people there.
No. Usually by now, though, she's sold out, or it's, very few tickets are left. And there are more than a few tickets left. Going by the Sprint Center chart, which isn't the most reliable way to look. I don't know how often they update that. So, but I looked at that as I was writing that, and I was just went, I thought it would be fuller than this by this point.
Tickets start at $86.
Right, that's the other thing when I went on there, because you couldn't really find, a lot of them are secondary tickets, second market tickets, so, and some of them were listed at $800, so.
Yes, I mean, that you do see that, I was just checking right before the Mark Knopfler show, which either sold out or came very close to selling out. But yeah, just a couple days before, I was just curious because, and I looked, and there was an $1,100 ticket listed. So I don't know what you expect to get that when the show isn't sold out or whatever. But anyway,
well, that could be inhibiting attendance too. That most of the tickets are secondary market tickets, and they're exorbitant.
Right, and people do have to make a commitment, and somebody basically went out to outer space 15 years ago, and they came back, there'd be some real sticker shock about period. I mean, I just paid $70 for a piece for the Mavericks tickets. I mean, I love the Mavericks, but they're the Mavericks, and they're playing at Knuckleheads, and you're paying $70. I got VIP tickets upstairs, and we love those up there upstairs, but it's just an indication. Unless you're going to go see local live music, which is great, you're not going to spend $25 at a regular old concert.
I guess I'm at the opposite end of that spectrum because I'm so familiar with ticket prices. When someone says tickets are crazy, like $75, I'm like, no, that's kind of low, actually, or average. That's not bad.
Right, because you're used to it, and also you've got to realize that these are sort of usually they're just once every couple times a year events for you, ball game tickets are approaching
Right.
that, even though and you can pay that or more for a game in a season where there's 81 of them. So
I know I haven't been to a Chiefs game in like 10 years, but I know what I spent the last time I went, and it was as much as I spent on a concert ticket. I mean, counting parking, tickets, beer.
Yeah, absolutely. Tim, always a pleasure, and we look forward to visiting again. As usual, we touched a lot of bases, and it's a lot of fun for me, man.
Yep. Thanks, Danny. See you next time.
This podcast was made possible by our great sponsors like Easton Roofing, the presenting sponsor of Kansas City Profiles at the Danny Kling Scale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Easton Roofing, where integrity matters. We hope you enjoyed the latest Danny Kling Scale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Come back soon for something fresh and new.